Okay, so now we've had a bit of a look really about the consumer, and we've talked about like really the private or the personal customer. Okay, now when we start to think about business to business, it does differ just a little bit. Almost everything's exactly the same. Okay, there's no major change there. Organizations are still going to have some degree of familiarity. They're still going to move through a process of determining whether they have a need. They're going to start doing their preliminary research to find out how they're going to satisfy that need. They're going to do that research, etc. It's still going to go through a usage pattern. Okay, all of that stuff still applies. But there is just another couple of little details there about how they make the decision to buy and what drives the ultimate purchase. So in a business setting, they normally require input from various parts of the organization. Okay, there's not one person, there's actually multiple people involved. And that might come down from information technology staff, senior management, the end users, finance, accounting. There's a whole lot of different people in a business that are all going to have some sort of degree of input or feedback into what the end decision is going to be. Now, we have different types of buyers in the business. You can have the economic buyer. And what that's about is they're making a purchase based on, if I buy this, what sort of business advantage can it give us, okay? So that decision-making unit is really about, if I buy this device, how much money is it going to help me make? Okay, so really it's a numbers decision, and that's really how they're driving that. Okay, what business advantage does it give us? Okay, and that's what we might look at there, you know, business advantage. You know, is it new plant? Is it new machinery? Can we make things faster? Can we do things quicker? Can we do things cheaper? Whatever it happens to be. The next one becomes the infrastructure buyer. Okay, so really this one was strategic, the economic was strategic, but the infrastructure buyer is taking it to the next level because you know, they're the person that's going to make the purchase happen. Okay, the infrastructure buyer is the one that influences the buying decision. Okay, I want something that's going to, you know, enable. Okay, they're not looking at this level about if I buy this, what does it allow me to do? They're really about, well, you know, in order to have office space or whatever, these are the things I'm going to need to have. Okay, so they're going to make the purchase decision happen. And then at the end, you've got the user buyer. Okay, so when we're talking about the user buyer, they're the one that are actually going to go through, you know, setting a lot of the objectives, because they're the one, you know, they're starting to think about, you know, they're the ones that are going to end up using it. So if I've thought about, if I buy this, what will it allow us to do? This person's saying, if we've got this in place, this is the details of how this is going to happen, and this person's the person that's going to end up using the thing that you just bought. Okay, so if you're thinking about, you know, in an office space, if we're buying a bunch of computers, this person's thinking, if we had computers, we could do things better. This person's thinking about, well, how many computers do I need? Where am I going to put them? What am I going to do with them? And these people are going, do the computers work? All right, is this going to be, can we even use this? Did we need different software? What did it happen to be? They're the people in your office actually using this stuff. Okay, so they're the ones who at the end of the day are going to be stuck with the decision that as it goes through. So let's just recap that. The economic buyer is the person responsible for buying the products that enable us to get a business advantage. Okay, so they're really hunting around for that big picture type stuff. They're justifying the purchase by linking it back to a profit. If we spend this, we can get this, which will let us make that. Okay, and we're really looking, that's at a very high-end level. You know, this person's often the CEO, you know, the chief executive officer. They're at the top of the tree, right? Okay, so the business unit manager. So it's a fairly high-level picture. It's not down there in the middle ranks. In the infrastructure buyer, they're the person doing things at the execution level. Okay, so thinking about the business unit. Okay, so they're usually someone in like an IT department or, you know, the operations area. You know, they're those people. So, you know, we'll put that down. IT, ops, okay, business unit manager type level. They're the people actually out there. They're thinking about what are the challenges at the installation phase? How am I going to put it in there? Where am I going to put all these computers? Do they need desks? How much time and money and effort is going to be required to put that wherever it needs to be? Remember, this guy just went, if we have these, we can achieve that. This person's thinking about, well, how is that going to happen? Okay, where do I put all those computer systems we just bought? How do I make sure we've got enough space, enough PowerPoints, enough electricity, enough... Okay, they've got to think about all the technical stuff, the actual application of how these things work. Okay, so it's a different layer. This might be a good idea. This person's going to tell us is it practical or not, okay, and start to guide that decision. And the last one is the user. Okay, so these people are also going to start to shape some of the attitudes and punch information back up with a bit of feedback, because they're going to be realizing this. They're going to be actually implementing. If we've got a bunch of computers and these guys don't use them, well, nothing happens, okay? So they need to start helping understand whether we're going to achieve that goal or not, okay? Is it usable? If they start providing negative feedback back up the chain or demonstrate it's hard to use, then the economic buyer goes, look, we wanted these things and we know we can put them in there, but actually our staff don't understand them, all right? And that's what we're looking at here, usually down at the staffing level. Okay, and if the feedback is, actually, we don't like those computers, it's going to go back up to the top and that's going to start to reshape what's going to happen, okay? So we need to think about all three sides of the decision-making process. So the person making the strategic decision, the person who needs to think about, well, how does this go into their space, and then the end user, the person that's going to actually be using that in the workplace. So if we're communicating business to business, we need to bear those three factors in mind and think about how we're going to target that, okay? How do we target the users who are going to be out there purchasing, initiating the purchasing process? They're the ones that are probably going to identify a need. They've been working in the business. Hey, if only we had computers, we could do this better. Or, hey, this machinery is broken or it's all ancient and out of date. They're also going to be the ones evaluating the usability on the ground. Okay, so we need to talk to them and think about how we're going to influence that. At the next level, those influencers, they're the tech personnel or the other people around there, other people in the organization not directly linked to the purchasing process, providing feedback or information, a little bit of guidance. They're the ones out there reading magazines, talking about technology, understanding what new computers are out there, starting the broader conversation in the industry or the business. The decider will ultimately start to choose the product, okay? So that's going to happen in here somewhere. You're going to have a decider or a decision maker, okay? They're the ones making the choice. You've then got the buyer, who's going to be the purchasing officer for the company, who's going to go out and conduct the transaction, and they will have information needs too. Mainly, how do they get the product and how do they give you the money? That's going to be a good one. And then you've got the gatekeeper. All right, so we've got different roles there. So the gatekeeper, which is the last one. Sorry, I'll put those down. So we've got the user who's using it. We've got the influencer who's talking about it. We then come down to the decider who decides whether we're buying it or not. Okay, from the decider, we start to get down to the buyer, the purchaser who's the purchasing officer, and then we've got a gatekeeper. Now, a gatekeeper in a business, we love our gatekeepers. We see them all over the place. They're the person that you try and book an appointment with the buyer or the decider, and they're like, nope, that person's not available to see you now. Yep, that's the secretaries. That's the, the tech personnel who take control of what information comes back and forth, okay? So the buyers will usually deal directly with the vendor, tend to be a bit of a gatekeeper. They won't let you get to the decision maker, all right? Their job is to keep the decision-making process a little bit independent so there's no undue influence going through. So you need to start thinking about, if I'm selling business to business, okay, how are they making this decision? Who's making the decision and why? What are their interests in making a decision? Economic, big picture, how does the CEO make the most out of his company or her company? Cool, gender neutral. Then we start to move through the infrastructure. So how is it going to be rolled out across the company? What's the ease of rollout? What's the ease of incorporating it into the space they've already got? The user at the end of the day, so the end user, how it's going to influence and help them and how they can quickly get upskilled and incorporate this technology. Okay, so they're going to be those things there about the decision making. I need to think about the different people involved and their information needs. How do I inform the user about how it's going to help them? How do I put enough information into the market that the influencer is always getting that information? How do I get the decider to make the decision to do what I want? How do I make sure that the buyer can quickly get information that's going to allow them to give us the money so they can get the product? And the gatekeeper, how do I convince the gatekeeper that I'm not just another salesman flogging yet another product that these people don't need and basically seen as a time waster? How do I convince them that there's enough value in my proposition that they're going to want to come in and start doing business with us? If I can do that, I can start to influence the business-to-business decision-making cycle. Everything else that we've talked about still comes in, all those messages, understanding what's going on there, and really ramming this home. If we start to think about a list, that's going to give us a great picture on how to start to do business with other businesses and understand their needs. Okay, there's a lot to it, but it really does involve thinking it through, and knowing who these people are, working out what information they need, and then satisfying that information need. And if we do that, we'll be able to successfully sell business to business. Okay, good luck out there. Have fun with your marketing.